You're listening to Ragebreed Mind, Body and Spirit on Ragebreed Radio.
Glass or diamonds? Which one here?
Hi everyone, this is your host Karina Sher, aka DJ Angel Wedge, and I am going to be your host for tonight's show. And this is Ragebreed Mind, Body and Spirit, and this show is about glass or diamonds.
A diamond is rare. A diamond is formed under pressure. It doesn't break. It doesn't crack. It becomes stronger. Diamonds are loyal, honest, protective, consistent, solid energy. They don't fold when things get hard. They don't disappear when you need them. They don't betray you for convenience. A diamond doesn't need to pretend. They are the same in private as they are in public. And when you find a diamond, you feel safe.
So let's talk a little bit about diamond behaviour. So when you have a diamond friendship, affiliation, or whether it's family, it could be friends or it can be relationship, a diamond has your best interests at heart. So it's kind of like having safety in a person. They're like your rock. They support you. And this is not to say that diamonds won't have disagreements with you, but they'll tell you straight and they'll tell you the issues. But what they will not do is try to bring you down. So, for example, if you have a goal, for example, okay, they won't be sitting there and trying to knock you down. Okay, this is the thing. And you know, and some people talk to me about criticism. Okay, so feedback and criticism is very different. I'm talking about an intent. So the people around you should be able to speak to you about things that they may not always agree with, and that's fine. There's not a problem with that if you can agree to disagree. However, a diamond is someone that supports your goals and they want to see you win in life. That is a diamond. So when you win in life, they're happy about that. You know, they don't want to see you fail. They don't get jealous. They don't compete. They are happy for your success. And it's the same how I feel when I see other people do well. I don't get jealous. I'm happy for their success. When they're in good relationships, I'm happy for their relationships. When they have good friendships, I'm happy they've got good friendships. If they achieve something major, I'm happy for them. That's the difference between someone who is a jealous person and someone that can be happy for you. Now, this can obviously differ in different things. So, for example, if you're in a relationship with someone and your perspective of them is that they are romantic and sweet and they're doing the right thing by you and everything, and all of a sudden they end up being glass because they cheat, for example, okay, that isn't a diamond, that is glass. Okay, so it's to understand the difference between a diamond and a glass, because ultimately a diamond is a safe place. It's your rock. Okay, a diamond lasts forever, and a lot of bonds that come into your life, some stay for a season, and some stay for a reason. And you know, and you will find that some people will come and go, and most will be like glass. From my personal experiences, most have been like glass. And but you do get the odd diamonds that support you, that love you, that care for you, that want you to do well. And you can have that through friendships, you can have that through relationships, you can have that through affiliations. They are people that want to see you succeed. They want to lift you. They don't want to sink your boat. But very jealous and pedantic and trolling type of mentalities, they are glass, because they can't be happy for anyone else. If they're going through a bad time, they want to inflict their pain onto you. and they want you to fail, so they look better than you, and that's what glass is. So we'll go now towards what glass looks like. Okay, so stay tuned.
Glass looks shiny. It can look like a diamond at first, but glass is fragile, breakable, sharp when it shatters, dangerous when handled carelessly. Glass people lie, manipulate, switch sides, wear masks, seek attention and validation. And the worst part, they often pretend to be diamonds until pressure hits, and then they shatter.
When glass breaks, it cuts. That's betrayal. That's lies. That's cheating. That's fake friendships. That's people smiling in your face and talking behind your back. Glass doesn't just break itself, it leaves wounds on everyone around it. And if you're a diamond, you don't understand it at first. Because you would never move like that.
Let's be real. Diamonds get targeted. Because you shine. You lead. You stand out. You have integrity. And glass feels threatened by that. So what do? Gossip. Create drama. Try to break your image. Try to bring you down to their level, because they can't become you. They try to damage you. Here's how you know. Watch actions, not words. Glass will say everything you want to hear. Make promises. Mirror you. But under pressure, they fail. Diamonds will show consistency. Show loyalty. Show up when it matters. Anyone can talk. Not everyone can stand.
So we're going to talk about glass and people that have been like glass in my life. A lot of friends that I used to have in the past, they deeply betrayed me. A lot of them were women, some were men, and the level of betrayal was just horrific. Whether it's been friendships, affiliations, whether it's been, even past, relationships and things like that. I've been betrayed quite heavily by people that have just been either jealous or tried to take away my happiness, couldn't be happy for me, and interfering in my love life. These people are glass, basically. That they're people that bring in noise, drama. They try to, infiltrate my friendships, my affiliations, lie about me. I've had smear campaigns. I've had prejudices. I've had competition, jealousy. You name it. I've overcome some very horrific things, including racism and sexism. Appearance shaming. These are people that I used to know, some of them. And it just goes to show that, this kind of two-faced bitching behaviour seems to go on quite often. And, and this is why I say to people, be really careful about the energy you allow into your life, because they can manipulate you and lie. And I remember being around these kinds of people back in the day, and literally all they used to do is bitch about each other, and it just was a really unsafe and toxic environment. And the thing with rotten fruit is it can infect other perfectly good fruit. So for me it's really important to be around good fruit, so you have to kind of make a decision in your life. What people do you feel safe around? And if they're the kinds of people that want to take, or sabotage your relationships or friendships, or they may be competitive and try to undermine you, or, you have to look at how people behave when you tell them a good thing. Watch their reaction, because a real friend, a real diamond, will be so happy for you. They'll be happy that you're doing well. They show support online, in person, and they turn up, because they want to see you do well. You can't do that for every single person. Do you know what I mean? I get that. But just knowing that they're there to support you in whichever way they can is great. That's a diamond friendship. And it's not necessarily about anything else except for actually caring about the person. You know, a diamond relationship is about looking after each other's heart, you know, and negotiating boundaries and things like that of what's acceptable and what isn't. So what I always find is that if you say to someone cheating isn't acceptable and they go ahead and do it, you know, that they're not taking accountability or care about your feelings. And some people just think it's okay to go around, you know, leading you on, saying that they love you, yet want to break your heart continuously with your friends. And I've gone through that, you know, and I don't know how I've managed to still, you know, be here and present, and for the amount of heartbreak that I've gone through. And it's very difficult because, you know, it's very toxic. But the problem is when you have people around you that enable your abuse. So, for example, this person is saying, you know, have lots of women that are excusing his behaviour, then he's not going to commit. He's a commitment phobe. So, you know, this is the problem that you have in life, is that sometimes you will go through glass, and sometimes you will find a diamond. And I do have a diamond family, I do have diamond friendships. In my love life, I did have good and bad relationships, but you know, you don't. It's one of the things that I learned as well is that when I was going through some of the hardest times in my life when it came to glass type of relationships where there was abuse involved and things like this, you know, to be able to kind of survive that is, you know, very brave, and I think whether it's emotional, physical or sexual abuse, whether you've been raped, whether it's been, you know, domestic violence, and I have gone through all of those things, you start to become very cautious about the people that you allow in your life, because if they're disrespectful, if their treatment doesn't match your worth, they're gone. I don't have time for people that cannot be loyal, cannot treat me with respect. I'm very clear on my boundary setting. I think with love it can be a lot more trickier, especially when you know, that there is some kind of trauma involved, and there's some issues with being able to voice how that person really feels, because they don't like vulnerability. So, you know, when you're dealing with avoidant type people, it's very hard to get the truth out of them, because it's all about them looking a certain way rather than really dealing with the feelings that they do have. And so they have one face for the public, and even you sometimes, and then really what they truly feel is hidden because of fear of vulnerability, because they're afraid you'll leave, you know. So there's a lot of abandonment issues going on. So what they try and do is sabotage it before you have a chance to leave them. And that's what happens to a lot of commitment phobic men or women, you know. Sometimes they just sabotage it because they're afraid of falling in love. But to be on the receiving end of that is very tough, because you can't keep making excuses for bad behaviour, and you know, because it's affecting your heart and it's destroying your heart. And on top of that is the gaslighting, with lying to the people about the bond and not being truthful and honest about it, but then also sabotaging it so they look like they're in control and they don't have to talk about their feelings, and they change the narrative, and there's a lot of that has gone on. Lies as well. I mean, people that lie. I mean, I know for a fact in terms of the affair, It happened. I have evidence, from mutual people that they were talking to. But this is an example of glass and toxic types of bonds, and what I try and do is distance myself from people like this. I cut off a lot of people because I had to look at how they were treating me, and if they were treating me with disrespect, whether it's been them coming on to the man that I love, whether it's been just being really backbiting and unsupportive, or trying to manipulate my character. I have always been the kind of woman that is very straight up and just says it how it is, and I'm very transparent with that, and that's how I get people interested in what I'm doing, because I say it how it is. And it's important for me to do that, to set the record straight where there are lies. So my point being here is, using this as an example, you will get, people in your life that will be posing as diamonds, but they're really glass and they're ready to cut you deep, and that's something that you have to really look out for. So always be aware of the difference between diamonds and glass, and they will prove that in their actions.
This is where your power comes in. You don't need to fix glass. You don't need to prove yourself to glass. You don't need to chase glass. You choose diamonds. You build with diamonds. You trust diamonds. You grow with diamonds. And most importantly, you become unbreakable yourself. So I'm going to leave you with this. Ask yourself, who in your life is a diamond? And who is just glass pretending? And more importantly, are you surrounding yourself with people who better you, or cut you by deceiving?
And part of self-care is about removing yourself from toxic people. You don't need to explain anything to them. You just remove yourself, because the thing is with people like this is they feel like they're above you and superior to you, like you need to answer to them, and you don't. You simply don't have to answer to anybody. You make your own path, and for me, I did a cull because I felt that it was important to surround myself with people that knew what respect was, and that means respect for me, my relationships, the people that I love, to treat me with respect and kindness, and rather than backbiting, being cruel, trying to get with my man, or when you look at the whole thing and say and this is really important, because you've got to look at how you're being treated, and ultimately you will never get anywhere in your life if you hang around people that are focused on just being in the rut. They don't really care about you. They use you, they steal off you, they hurt you, they harm you. They don't know how to talk to you, they don't know how to be respectful. And you've got to set yourself to a better standard, because it's about quality, not quantity. I would rather have 5 very good solid diamonds in my life than 3,000 glass. It's not the quantity that matters, it's about quality bonds, and it's about having the self-respect to say, I'm really sorry, but how you treated me is unacceptable. And that can be hard in relationships, because sometimes when you're in a relationship it does take work, and you can be battling with someone that has trauma, and you do have problems with people not being honest and things like that. Ultimately, everything comes down to this. It's how hard you're willing to work on a bond. But the thing is, if you keep doing that with tons of people and allowing them to walk all over you, they're just going to get used to taking you for granted. So as soon as someone does something wrong, voice your boundary, and make sure they understand that you will not take shit. It's very, very important. It's like now I say, do no harm, take no shit. I have no problem removing people from my life. I don't care what status they are at. If they show me that they are disrespectful, if they show me that they cannot be a true friend, you know, they're not. I don't really want to know. You know, if someone doesn't support me or backs me and things like, you know, I don't really want to know, because it's not really a friendship. It's just people, you know, pretending. They're just glass. And in this day and age, you know, I always say to people, you know, you've got to choose your friends wisely, because actually the people that aren't there to support you, what is their purpose in your life? Because at the end of the day, the people that I want in my life are rowing my boat to the same goal. They're the people I'll make time for. I'm not interested in people that are trolls. I'm not interested. I don't respect trolls. I don't respect pedantic people. I don't respect people like that. I have no issue with people talking to me about gaps that might be in my business, and we look at it from a logical point of view and things like that, and we put it on a spreadsheet and we talk about it and we discuss and we look at ways to try and better the business. I have no issue with that. What I have an issue with is bullying, character annihilation, lies, smear campaigns, bullying, abuse, racism, sexism, harassment, all those kinds of things. And you know, those are the things that I do not accept. And I just don't have time to have heated debates with people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't have time to do it. And all I want really in my life at the moment is just peace, and just to enjoy what I do, you know, and just be around people that, you know, care about me, love me, want to make that time with me, spend time with me, you know, and if they're not doing that, then I don't see why they should be in my life. So when I make decisions, it's based on treatment, it's based on actions, it's based on that, because people can say how they feel, but it's in their actions to show that's how they feel. And if people, you know, I mean, people ask me about the situation with the guy that I love quite often, and I just tell them the truth. You know, he denies it because he's afraid to be vulnerable. So that's why he, you know, does the opposite. So his actions doesn't align with how he truly feels, and it's a self-sabotaging technique that people do when they're afraid to love someone, because, you know, they're too scared, basically, and that's why men run away. Commitment phobic men run away. A lot of it comes down to control issues, you know, like they're afraid of being controlled. And so that's why these kinds of men turn to commitment phobia. It's not about being controlled, it's about protecting the heart of someone that you love. Because when you love someone, you want to protect them, right? So you don't want harm to come towards them. And that is why we have relationships, and that's why we have, you know, that's the whole point in loyalty, because otherwise it's just not special. You know, it's what you're doing to the other person is saying that you're not enough and I need lots more. You're just one of many, you know, and that's wrong. And that's why cheating is wrong, because you're treating people as objects rather than people. And that's why I always say to people, you know, you should always, if you're going, the thing is, when you're stuck in those situations where you're only just choosing lust, you know, what tends to happen is they're missing out on their soulmates, they're missing out on their real true loves, and they're making themselves unhappy, and they're not happy themselves, but they just continue a self-sabotaging technique to prove a point. And you know, it's really sad, you know, that people do that still in this day and age, but it is what it is, and I have to, you know, accept what is. But this is why I say to people, and I say to a lot of my friends and things, you know, hang around the right people, because most of your stress will come from people that just want to bring you down. Just literally hang around the right people, distance yourself from people that don't know how to treat you, and if they can't commit, then just say goodbye, you know, because you can't force someone to want to commit to you. You can't do it. they have to want to do it. They have to want to do the right thing. And if they're cheaters, they'll, they're, like I said to you, it's pure selfishness. And a lot of the cards that come up for cheaters are Seven of Swords, Moon, Tarot. I get this quite a lot in the readings towards the other woman. Deception, all that kind of stuff. And also with him too, because he's a people pleaser, and he doesn't want to upset anybody, so he just goes along with it, and and that's the problem. And then you have the self-sabotaging thing where some guys like to use women as trophies. Oh, look how many women love me, and it's just very sad. I mean, the thing is, when you are a public figure like myself, you are going to get men and women and all kinds of people that celebrate you, and they're your fans and followers. In that context, that's my role, that's my job. That doesn't mean I'm having sex with loads of different men and women or whatever. I'm not doing that. I pretty much am very I've been very loyal to it. Obviously when we've broken up and stuff, and I've gone out, and when we weren't together and we had an argument or whatever, and he's gone off and done something, and I've tried to move on and date, and we've not had everything been perfect throughout the entirety, and so it is what it is. But the reality is, nobody should be led on to no relationship when that person's been clear about the kind of relationship they want. And if they continue to cheat and get with other people, then it's time to say goodbye. Unless they drastically do a 180 and decide what's more important. And if they don't do that, then you have to look after yourself and say to the universe, and say, look, I love this person, but I'm not being treated the right way. And that's why sometimes you have to make these tough decisions and remove glass from your life.